January
God,
1939,
I wasn't there.
Sing Sing Prison. Isidore Zimmerman's head has been shaved. His trouser leg has been slit open so they can attach the electrodes. He's said his goodbyes. He's made his peace. In 2 hours, the state of New York is going to execute him for a murder he did not commit. Then, a guard walks up to his cell. This is that story. He was 22 years old, a college scholarship kid from the Lower East Side. Never fired a gun in his life. The prosecutor knew that. He buried the evidence anyway, and Isidore Zimmerman spent the next 24 years paying for it. In 1937, the Lower East Side of Manhattan was a world of its own. Crowded tenements, immigrant families stacked 3 to a room, kids running numbers just to eat. Isidore Zimmerman grew up in that world, one of 9 children born to Russian immigrants who had nothing except each other. But Izzy had something the neighborhood didn't expect. He was good. Good enough at football that Columbia University noticed. At 19, he had a scholarship. He had a way out. April 10th, 1937. A group of local young men the press would later call the East Side Boys planned an armed robbery at a Manhattan restaurant. During the holdup, an off-duty detective named Michael Foley was shot and killed. Zimmerman had been at an early meeting, heard the talk, and walked away. He claimed he never touched a gun. He was nowhere near the restaurant that night. But a detective was dead, and someone had to answer for it.
I wasn't there. I had nothing to do with it. I swear to God, I wasn't there.
The prosecutor needed a conviction. He had one witness, a man named Alex Rose, who was himself part of the robbery. Rose cut a deal. He pointed at Zimmerman and said Zimmerman had supplied the murder weapon. That was it. That was the whole case. What the jury never knew, what they were never allowed to know, was that just before the trial, Rose had given a statement to a stenographer. In it, he'd admitted to inconsistencies, contradictions that would have made a jury question everything. The prosecutor had those statements in his hands. He read them. He knew what they meant. He buried them. At trial, Rose testified that he had never made any conflicting statements. The prosecutor sat there and let him lie. Zimmerman had no scholarship anymore, no future, no alibi that anyone believed. In March 1938, he was convicted of first-degree murder, sentenced to die in the electric chair. He was 19 years old. For 9 months, Zimmerman lived on death row at Sing Sing. He watched 13 men walk past his cell toward the execution chamber. 13 times he counted their footsteps. 13 times they didn't come back. By January 1939, it was his turn. He told his father to let the family know he died a good death. His head was shaved, his clothes were prepared. He was ready.
My son, my boy, he didn't do this. He didn't do this!
2 hours before the execution, a guard appeared at his cell. Governor Herbert Lehman had commuted his sentence to life in prison. Not because Zimmerman was innocent, not because the evidence was wrong, because the governor felt uneasy that the conviction rested entirely on the word of accomplices. That was it. Unease. That was worth more than 2 years of appeals. The electric chair was gone. The cage was not. What followed were 24 years and 8 months. At Sing Sing, at Attica, at Dannemora. He would later say guards at Attica took him into an elevator they called the Bucket of Blood and beat him until he lost 90% of the vision in his right eye. He claimed a warden at another prison punished him by cutting off his food for a year, that he survived on scraps smuggled to him by other inmates. The system didn't just want to hold him, it wanted to erase him. He refused to be erased. Inside some of America's most brutal prisons, Isidore Zimmerman became a jailhouse lawyer. He read every case he could find, filed motions, wrote letters, argued, always argued. The other inmates at Dannemora called men like him the saints. Men who kept fighting when fighting made no sense. For years, nothing moved. Then, in 1962, 24 years after his conviction, those buried statements were finally uncovered. The ones Alex Rose had given to the stenographer, the ones the prosecutor had hidden. A court reviewed them and ruled that Zimmerman's conviction had rested on testimony that was perjured, with the deliberate involvement of the prosecutor. Not a mistake, not an oversight, connivance. That was the word the court used. On February 2nd, 1962, Isidore Zimmerman walked out of prison. He was 45 years old. The middle of his life, gone. Not taken by a criminal, taken by the state that was supposed to protect him. Freedom didn't come with anything attached. No money, no apology, no acknowledgement beyond a court ruling. Zimmerman got a job as a doorman in a Manhattan apartment building. $212 a week. He carried bags and held doors open while he spent every spare moment preparing a lawsuit. He asked for $10 million. The state hid behind sovereign immunity, the legal idea that a government cannot be sued for its own actions. Nelson Rockefeller was one of the most powerful men in America, 4 times vice president, nearly the Republican nominee for president, a man who built his career on the idea of justice and reform. 3 times, the New York State Legislature looked at what happened to Isidore Zimmerman and passed a special bill. Not a policy, not a budget. A bill written specifically to let one man sue the state that destroyed him. 3 times, Rockefeller picked up his pen and vetoed it. No explanation, no statement, just no. Zimmerman was working the door of a Manhattan apartment building during all 3 of those vetoes, carrying bags for people who had no idea the man holding the elevator had once been 2 hours from the electric chair. He never told them. What would he even say? The tabloids weren't kind either. Some papers ran his compensation claim as a money grab. Letters arrived at his home calling him greedy. People who had never spent a single night wrongfully imprisoned were doing the math on what 24 years was worth and deciding he was asking for too much. He kept fighting anyway. Because what else do you do when the system that broke you is the only system that can fix it? For 20 years, he fought. Finally, in 1983, a new governor signed the bill. On May 31st, the New York Court of Claims awarded Isidore Zimmerman $1,763.75. After legal fees, he kept about $660,000. The state had finally put a number on what it stole. He was 66 years old. Disappointed with the amount, but too worn out to fight anymore.
They owe me more than money. They can't pay what they owe me.
He bought a car, a brand new champagne pink Cadillac sedan DeVille. His lawyer had to step in to stop him paying full list price. Izzy had never negotiated for anything in his life, because for 24 years, there was nothing to negotiate for. He and his wife Ruth drove that Cadillac around Queens. He got a charge card. He made plans. 4 months later, he was walking home from the grocery store when he collapsed on the street. A massive heart attack. He was gone before the ambulance arrived. The check had cleared. He never spent it. The state of New York wrote a check for $1 million. The ink was barely dry when the man it was written for died on a sidewalk in Queens, carrying groceries. Isidore Zimmerman spent 45 years fighting a system that cheated him at every step, and in the end, the system didn't even have to give him time to enjoy winning. Some debts can't be paid. Some stolen things can never be returned.